So welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Or 15 weeks in a row, we are Malibu's #1 pod
My
out of
favorite.
a field of one.
Me too.
Yeah. Maybe two, that's right.
That is my favorite son, man.
Well, let's start with, I would say that we started out almost 3 months back now, or 3 months back, with a particular focus on the rebuild topics. We are now evolving to talk about all things Malibu. Last week, we had Keegan Gibbs on the pod talking about fire resilience, hardness, etc. This week, of course, we have you guys. So this is turning out to be a forum for discussing all things that are relevant to Malibu for folks that are vested and interested in Malibu. So with that said, I know Joe knows all of us. We've been working together a lot, but maybe let's just quickly go around and introduce us for Bill.
I'm Arno. That's my house in Big Rock, in the fires. Engineer by trade, selling aluminum gates and fences now, fireproof. And I'm also a relationship coach. So.
And I'm Abe. I am a developer, but not the kind that the Malibuites hate.
We should get into it.
So far.
Pretty nice, isn't it?
So far.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. No,
And you're also a former ReBUild ambassador.
And a formal real.
And you lost the house.
In Big Rock,
That's
right.
And
Yeah.
you lost it in Sunset Massacre. Yeah.
And you also lead the Malibu ReBUild task force.
That's right.
That we're
Yes.
members of.
Man, I needed a lot of help with an introduction.
Hey, with Heffley. What you came? What you came?
Yeah. The Joe.
I'm the second Indian in Big Rock now. I lost my home in January, and I've been very active in our community and helping us recover with Abe and all of you guys. And I've also former president of Malibu Township Council, which we will talk about, but I'll let you go.
I guess that's why we're here.
Yeah.
I'm Bill Sampson. I've lived here 45 years. I belonged to the Township Council most of that time, and somehow I became president. It's been a year,
Yes.
close to a year ago. And the Township Council is a good organization and has been traditionally and historically great for Malibu, and we will continue that.
Darren Graves, I'm, heir to Malibu real estate. My grandmother moved here in '73, Big Rock Beach. That house burned down in January. So I'm helping my parents with the ReBUild application. Submitted our application on Monday. So we're excited about forthcoming approval for the planning verification. Practice in code compliance and architecture professionally. And I'm trying to bring fire resilient design methodology into Malibu. Work with Abe and everyone here in MRTS.
My name is Ugustena. I'm a local architect, originally from Spain. I've been working in projects in Malibu for 13 years, all kinds, and I've focused also a lot in the woodsy recovery. I used to live in Malibu Lake, and during the fires I was evacuated, so I thought that I lost it, but thankfully I didn't. And also a local surfer. I work in other jurisdictions, but mostly Malibu. And I'm very passionate about helping as much as I can.
I'm Danny Smith. My wife and I lost our house on Acosta Beach in January, and I'm on Malibu ReBUild task force, working hard with these guys. Happy to have you guys here.
Yeah. I'm so excited.
Well, so let's get right into it. Bill, you started out talking a little bit about the MTC. It's been topical in the last couple of weeks, and we thought it would be an excellent forum to sort of, talk through what the MTC is. So start us out with what the origin is and how it has evolved into the organization it is today.
The council I wasn't there. It was formed in January of 1947, which is 4 months before Jackie Robinson got to the big leagues. Shortly before Babe Ruth and Henry Ford died, and 6 months before my birth. It is a civic organization. It is Malibu's oldest existing civic organization. It is a public benefit nonprofit corporation incorporated under the laws of the state of California. All of that stuff was done long before I'd ever even heard of it. And we have traditionally tried to keep Malibu Malibu. And if you don't know what that means, it's sort of like when Louis Armstrong said, if you don't know what swing is, you'll never know you don't know what it is. We did not move here to get more concrete. I don't think anybody did. And some of the things that happened in the past, and I wasn't responsible, but before I got here, the Township Council led the fight to not have a nuclear power plant at Coral Beach. We recently were accused of not caring about safety. Well, nuclear power, you're a surfer, I've surfed at San Onofre. I don't want to again. What could possibly go wrong with a nuclear power plant in Malibu? Well, we stopped that. They wanted to build a freeway. There was going to be a freeway interchange at Malibu Canyon and the freeway along Coast Highway. Some of the drawings are really great because I think there was like a 1,000-foot drop. But they really wanted to build that. And they were going to put, well, Township Council didn't want that. Oh, the marina. I forgot all about the marina. Yeah, somebody wanted to put a marina.
When was it? When was the conversation to put a nuclear plant in?
That was in the 50s when they were building all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I'm a recovering lawyer. There was a big practice for those dealing with eminent domain cases as all the freeways got built all over Southern California. But, and we managed to keep that from happening here. I got here in 1980. I can stop or
It
let
was
you
the
guys go.
sewer line that got
Oh.
the cityhood, right?
That got us the sewer line. And
The
yeah,
city.
we don't care about the highway. If the people think we don't care about the highway and safety, I'll bring back those big diesel trucks that went through here until 1982. The Township Council stopped them finally. Otherwise, we would have 18-wheelers, 50-foot 18-wheelers. I don't know what the weight limit is. It's probably getting to 80,000 pounds. It's what the trucking industry would like. And that'd be a great thing to have in Malibu. We didn't stand for it. We stopped it.
So I thought, sorry to interrupt, but I thought the cutoff for, big rigs or triple axle 18-wheelers at Topanga, I thought that was a Caltrans decision. It wasn't? It was forced on them?
It was, the county supervisors had the power under state law to prevent them from coming through here. And amazingly, they did it because the supervisors weren't really Malibu's good friend, ever.
That's why we separated from.
And at the beginning, so you guys were fighting the county, I'm assuming, before cityhood, and then when the Coastal Commission, then the Coastal Act in the 70s, then you were able to also appeal things to Coastal Commission. I'm assuming, how was that fight compared to now?
I don't know, I've never really been involved in a coastal appeal.
We need Pat for that.
Yeah, Pat Healy, our secretary, has been around for that. Some of our members very well remember, like Joanne Jacobson remembers going down as a teenager with her parents they would charter buses and go down to meet the county supervisors and talk to them about what they were doing out here.
I see.
And, they didn't care.
So what is it, Bill, you said something interesting. Maybe let's just deep dive into that for a second. The Township Council's goal is to keep Malibu Malibu. What is your or the MTC's, both of you, maybe it's a question to both of you, definition of Malibu?
A coastal, semi-rural village. I mean,
Sounds nice.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's
It's
great.
great. I had no idea this was here when I got here. I came here because I like the beach, and a partner of mine had come out here, said, you ought to come out here too. That partner was inspired to come here by John Mazza, with whom he'd gone to college. Oh, God, they must have been college 60 years ago.
I think Malibu should be for families. Obviously, tourists come, but it has to be a rural, environmentally friendly, lots of open space, but a mix of residential and commercial, like local businesses. That's mainly We don't want it to be like,
Santa Monica.
yeah.
Do you
or
see like
Beverly
a
Hills.
hard line, like a hard wall between Malibu and the Palisades, or Malibu and Santa Monica, or Malibu and LA? How do you see that wall? Where is there?
I like to have it, it's a blanket. But Palisades, I mean, people ask, from out of town, friends ask about Palisades. I mean, I feel horrible for people that live there. I mean, their town was destroyed, and those local businesses were owned by people that lived there. I mean, because I'm a member of the Optimist Club here, occasionally visit the Palisades Club, and they met at Mort's Deli. Well, Mort owned the deli, and he lived in probably the Alphabet Streets. I didn't know they were even called that until the fire. I never went there. Well, unless the highway was shut down, I'd have to go through 26 or go on up and go all the way up to Sunset. You guys have all done that highway broken drill. But other than that, it's a different world.
It is a different one. When we first moved here, I mean, we lived all over. I'm originally from Toronto, but in the last 25 years, we've lived in Sonoma Valley, Miami, Boston, Colorado, and then we ended up here. We went a year in New York and hated it and flew back, ran back. But it's really the families here, like finding Big Rock. When we first lived in Palisades and my kids went to Marquez, their school burned down, we were having realtors come and take us, and I said, I want to go see Malibu. He's like, Malibu's just a different place. It's just like a different vibe. You don't want to live there. I'm like, yeah, I want to see. He's like, it's a way of life. I think that's where the bumper sticker or the license plate holder says Malibu way of life. We got that immediately when we moved here. But it is just it's a vibe. It's just a completely different, there's no place like it in the world.
You guys think that it still persists, your definition of Malibu, which is a semi-rural village by the sea? Is it still that?
Not like it was. I was thinking as I got here. When I arrived here, I would have been in your office in about 15 minutes without speeding. Mm-hmm. And all the way down the highway, I felt like I was driving through Santa Monica where I lived before I came here, and sort of struggling to get,
So how does that feel? I mean, so the definition and the articulation of your Malibu is not it anymore, right? Fair to say?
It's lost a lot of it for me. It really has.
Can I ask, so obviously 15 minutes, that's going to change because of natural growth, population growth, if nothing else. So does the MTC have an ability to factor that in a reasonable way, still maintaining this idea of the way of life of Malibu, but recognizing that things change?
With only 10,000 residents, we're a small town. We're not a big metropolis. If there was a sewer system all the way along PCH, all the way to kind of county line, they could build multi-family properties on either side of the highway. It could be a 200,000 population, but we don't want that, and I don't think it'll ever be that because of. So I don't exactly agree with Bill. I do believe we still have a beautiful paradise of a place we live here. I mean, I've been to Cannes and I've been on the beach there, and I'm like, there's nothing better than the beach here in Malibu. It's just.
I think we ought to argue with that.
No, don't get me
Beaches
wrong.
here are the best in the world, and a lot of it has to do with they're not developed.
Right.
There's always freedom to roam. You don't have to see 50 people within 100 feet.
How would
like
you
do
define?
in-
How would you define Laguna? How would you define Laguna Beach?
Okay. When I was, well, here, don't get me wrong. I love this place. It isn't what it was, okay? There's only one other place. I would move, I confess, I would have any time, to Hyena on the north shore of Kauai had it been financially feasible. But this is it. This is great. I'm not going to go anywhere. I grew up wanting to live in Laguna from high school and that. I was probably the kind of visitor in Laguna that I'd rather not have in Malibu. With the statute of limitations is one on all that stuff. I loved it. And Mazza has a house in Laguna he talks about a lot, as some of you guys know. And one of my high school buddies who was effectively as a surfer, the mayor of Brook Street, and if you're a surfer, you know what that is. It is the spot down there. And he was the top dog. What he told me, we went to high school together. He said, you made the right choice. And I love Laguna. It's gotten a lot more built up than we have, though. I mean, I remember the Date Shack. There was nothing out there.
Their speed limit is
But-
lower though there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess where I
They
was
take care
going-
of their highway.
where I was going with it is it's a lot more dense, right? I mean, you talk
It
about
is.
open spaces and such. There isn't any, and yet we still do have families there. The schools are great, and the beaches are amazing.
Is there a
right?
sewer
So
there?
my basic
Yes.
point is, was there sewer?
Well,
My basic point is that does it, pristine beaches doesn't necessarily have to be at odds with some level of urbanization, right?
Or a sewer. A sewer would make it more pristine on the beaches, one could say, because there's no risk of leaching out.
Porta potties.
What Joe said is that the sewer presents the potential for more development. Doesn't necessarily mean more development would happen. It would have to be controlled in a way.
You need a zoning change for that because most of Malibu's rural residential.
And I think we have a sewer now. And there's a new one coming in the colony in East Malibu Road, and we don't have hotels, and we don't have large apartment buildings. So we obviously have other mechanisms to control this. What's an issue for me is, I don't know when you dream of this old Malibu, what area you're thinking of. But I think for a lot of people, it's the beginning of the city. It's early 90s. And what's an issue for me is that the population in 1990 was apparently 12,000. Our population, I think you said, was 10,000.
10,000.
It's not, I don't think.
Is it 8,000?
Some people will say 6
It's
or less.
6.
I've heard
Since
sub
the
five.
fire.
And now
Yeah,
after,
it's a fire.
no, this was pre-fire. After the fire, we don't know. But so I don't have any problem inherently with the idea of slow growth. In fact, it sounds nice to me. But when, that's par, 12,000 people. That's the dream you remember. We're at 6. So why are we talking about slow growth until we get back to 12? Let's fill our houses. Let's build our houses.
We're all for
I-
residential building. I mean, we're for especially rebuilding up to 10%. We're cool with that.
That
We
is-
want that.
That is correct. I don't have a problem with somebody building a house. I'm not. I went to a meeting before I ran for office mainly because of the STR Airbnb, and people asked me to. I was just annoyed that people running motels on my street, and they are motels. As far as I could tell, they were renting them by the hour, but I don't know. I mean, it was nuts on my street.
Can I ask what's the status of that? Where is the?
I think I made a big enough nuisance of myself that one of them stopped. There were 2 fires, so it was easy to rent people long term. There's a couple from the Franklin fire occupying the principal problem house now, and a couple that lost a house in Woolsey lived there for about 3 years.
Well, what's the
They were
city
neighbors.
policy on short-term rentals?
Well,
You could have it.
There's no.
There's no policy.
this is what's very interesting. They do have a permit program, but according to the Coastal Commission, it's not technically enforceable. There is this tricky dance that's going to continue of, I think, most of the community would like to regulate short-term rentals. But the state says we are not allowed to because we're not providing sufficient access to the beaches to the public. There aren't enough hotel rooms. So what they're saying is short-term rentals should be a free-for-all because we need to provide more temporary stays for these people.
Well, and then
That's not
on
fair.
last Monday, John Mazza brought this up during the Malibu Township or Malibu Roundtable today.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
La Salsa Hotel, they are not, it's a bunch of 9 short-term rentals that are all legal as per Coastal Commission, and they wanted to make it into an official motel. And a motel is R1 occupancy. It's supposed to have a manager on site. So we're like, that's great. Let's get this out of residential and make it an official motel with a manager's office in the old restaurant, because at first they weren't using that restaurant, for anything. So we're like, well, you can't co-use the parking for a commercial structure and nine units. So they said, okay, we'll make that into a manager's office. And then the planning commission just decided, they just gave the applicant the option. They're like, are you going to man that office? Like, are you going to have a full-time person there? And they're like, well, not if we don't need it. So they just said, no, we're not going to have it. And we're like, you have to condition it so that there's a manager on site, because that is the only difference between a short-term rental and a motel.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to give you a choice.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hypothetical, but it's kind of not, because it's the situation we're in now. If you could choose between A or B, A is a couple hotels in a centralized location, planned out, zoned, parking, or B, the short-term rentals on every block. Which do you choose? Because that's what the state is presenting us.
Well, okay, you need to understand the history of Malibu. When I got involved with this stuff, short-term rentals were banned, period, by statute, by our general plan, by our municipal code, all of which were already through coastal. All it took was for the city council to say to the city attorney, enforce the law. Lawless council people like, you want me to name them all?
We might have to bleep all those out. I don't know.
You can bleep them all as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, no, they lawlessly would not direct the attorney to enforce the law. Then they came up, oh, we'll have this interim ordinance. We're still on the interim ordinance. And then we'll have a hosted ordinance. Hosted ordinance was the one that Coastal turned down. And that, yeah.
And they could easily
That's a
say-
bad second choice. So now you present, Haney's got approvals, I think, for his hotel. Let him build his damn
But
hotel.
no one's buying it.
But do you mean that? Let him go?
I mean that, he's got the entitlements, he's got the
It
permits.
took us 8 years
As
to get
far
on
as I
that
know.
list, because we had to change the zoning.
Well,
we had to.
You know,
It's my.
I'm sorry, I got no power.
Well, from what I've seen, it's a gorgeous design. So yeah, go for it.
And this is my opinion, only my opinion.
Yeah.
But reasonable, controlled, planned out, small hotels is better than short-term rentals everywhere, which are unregulated, and it gets the state
Hotels
off our back.
or motels,
Well-
because these are motels, which is much easier.
So
I don't
I got a lot of
Yeah,
flack.
what's the difference?
It's a big difference.
I got a lot of flack because in the summer, we would rent out Piedra Chica, which burned down. We'd rent it out, we'd go to Canada and we'd rent it out for 2 months, and I'd make like enough money to pay our taxes twice. So that was good for us because, you know, Colin
People at the colony do that.
became unhealthy and he couldn't work as much as he could. So we did that. And I think if you want to retain families in Malibu, you have to put a restriction on short-term rentals, like say 90 days per year or something. But if you let it be a free-for-all all year round,
I mean,
LLCs will buy them and they'll just rent them out all year round. And we'll just
I
rent
agree
out.
with all that, but we have the coastal commission to deal with, so it seems like we have to make a trade-off. Or, Bill, maybe it's sue the hell out of everybody, I don't know.
Well,
But I think a
I'm too
trade-off-
old for that.
putting a calendar limit on it would help. And I will say that when I was living down on the beach, I never knew my neighbors because I didn't have any neighbors. All the neighbors I ever met on the beach were guests from out of state.
Right.
They rented their houses for 4 days, 2 days, 1 night. And every time I'd walk down the sand, it'd be like, where are you from? Oh, like Oklahoma, Alabama. This is the best. I'm like, yeah, it is. Welcome. And I really don't know anybody who owned anything within 2 miles of our house. And if there are no limits, that will never change.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that we can put limits on, which leads to my question. Like, I'm very curious. I've never been to any of your meetings. Like, I would like to know how you guys work. How do you pick what are the things that you want to fight for? How do you get organized? How is there a hierarchy? How do you name new members? And what is the difference between?
blind or what?
No, no. I'm like so curious because I've been listening to council meetings and planning commission meetings for many, many years, and I've known your voice for a long time, but I put a face on, and I guess how it works, because as a professional here, I'm sometimes like afraid, like what if I did something wrong and I didn't realize? I went through the whole thing with the with the plan, with the staff, and now I come here after 2 or 3 years working on this application, and then they have an issue last minute, and it's happened to me, right? So I see two different ways. One way is like it's keeping the quality of the project very high in Malibu and it's good, but sometimes it could be, it's like when there's a power, there's a responsibility with it. I feel that you guys enforce this power very well. There's like some rules of the game that you know how to play. I would like to know how you guys decide which things to prioritize and enforce.
Well, we have 13 districts from Las Tunas all the way to past, how far? County line. And we elect our members. We have you apply for membership
Or
every year. Yeah, every year we send out ballots to all the members, and we give all the members names in each district, and they vote. And so we're voted in as the board, 13 members, and then every month we have a meeting, and it's usually what's on the city council agenda, usually.
How many members are in the MTC total?
I don't know, I think
50?
no, more than that,
More
but
than that?
800?
No.
no. But
I
we're
don't
not,
know.
it's confidential, I'm not supposed to
Okay.
say, but it's, it's.
Sizable.
It's the silent
Anyway,
majority.
But the meeting that you guys have is the board only. It's not
Yeah.
everybody.
No, members can.
Members may come.
Oh,
They-
they're open, anyone can.
Corporations are run by their boards, okay? We're a corporation.
So there's a board of 13 members, and you guys vote inside of
You
it.
are incorporated.
Yeah, since 1947. Kiwanis clubs, Rotary clubs, Optimus clubs, lots of other organizations of that sort are 501c4s, as are we. And we are a community service organization. We do not funnel money to candidates.
And we were really under the radar for many decades until the Malibu Inn Motel came. And that was a 4-story motel across from the pier that Malibu only allows 2 stories for anything. And we were in, Brian Embry, myself, and Pat Haley were in City Hall, the Surf Rider Room, with Adrian Fernandez, who was the planner on the case at the time. And he was showing us how if you pile dirt along the wall of every floor, it's 1 floor. So it's not 4 stories, it's 4 single stories. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
So they were going to chop up that whole hill,
Yeah, they were
build
gonna-
in and step up.
Put a 55-foot retaining wall, which Yolanda said that'll never work. That's ended up ending the whole thing, but
And the issue with that was it would sort of destroy the ruralness of, like,
I mean, it would have been a nightmare for traffic. It would have destroyed the coastal bluff there. It would have destabilized that.
And also they were
hillside.
changing the zoning, right? They
Yeah.
were building a de facto hotel,
Yeah.
calling it a motel, and when they were getting,
Right.
it took us 8 years to do the Seaview Hotel for Norm. They were trying to do it in 2 years. So there were a lot of things that we're trying to.
fast forward to last week or a couple weeks back, and a similar theme, obviously the Caltrans thing came up, and MTC was.
I was the only board member to vote against that.
And it was just
So
as
now
Take us into that, the conversations that sort of happened. What was,
and also how many different point of view you have inside of this organization. I'm sure that people fight each
I
other
know
out, right?
it is, yes.
Can I set the table a little bit more?
Yeah.
This is a Caltrans project to spend a certain amount of money, $55 million on various safety upgrades along PCH. A lot of it simple repaving, but that might include bike lanes, sidewalks, street lights.
And we went to the we went to the planning commission meeting and we said, we weren't really so fighting the whole project. We wanted the whole project to happen, but there was just some excessive light. They wanted 8 lights between.
So the
Zoom
planning commission approved it.
Yes.
And it was going to the council,
Right.
and NTC appealed at the council.
But my goal was to work with Caltrans, and we did. We worked with them very well, very respectful to one another. They looked at the data and they're like, yeah, you know what? There aren't so many accidents on. They just kind of randomly said, okay, we'll just put lights here. We'll just put bike lanes everywhere, but we won't make it safe to go out from the bike lane into the traffic because there's areas where you can't put bike lane because it's so narrow. And they were putting it together a little quickly because of the Pepper
Political
Island
pressure.
issues.
And we're like, okay, can you just make it a little bit safer? Like, we wanted protected bike lanes the whole way with the barriers, but they're like, that's for a
Which
few-
I will go out and say, the cyclist community does not want that.
because they want to come into the.
Can I ask back to Ian's question?
It's
And-
true.
And I understand maybe there's confidentiality you guys want to maintain, but do you guys have internal discussions about a big thing like this? And are there differing viewpoints that
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys bat around?
Oh, yeah. We had 2 meetings.
These can be somewhat contentious. Okay, now, the lobbying effort called this a safety project. Let me tell you what Caltrans calls it. I looked it up.
Pave it.
This part is project out in the west, is project 1 of the Pacific Coast Highway Pavement Rehabilitation Project. That doesn't sound like a safety project. They're fixing the pavement. There were safety aspects. Is it a democratic organization? Okay, the First Amendment, the United States Constitution, includes freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association. That means anybody can get together. You can call yourself the Malibu Township Council. You can call yourself, Smart Coast California. You can call yourself the Malibu Association of Realtors. You can call yourself the Malibu Little League. Every single one of them also has the right, absolute right, to petition the government for redress of grievances. That is not anti-democratic. It is fundamentally democratic. My father served in World War II and in Korea. He actually believed that stuff. Don't ask me where he got it. I happen to believe it too. And we petitioned for redress of grievances. We do not support candidates, okay? I wasn't on the board. They didn't support, I don't know if they supported me or not. Some of them probably did. Some of them probably didn't, I don't know.
You mean when you ran?
Yeah, I ran in
It was
2022.
only 100 votes behind Marianne Riggins. It's
but
always
who's
a political thing.
counting?
No, but it's because we had 3 candidates and they had 2.
Sure.
Preservationists versus
It didn't work out.
the pro-development.
So-
I really did not see this as, I thought we should pull the appeal when we had Caltrans.
That's what I was gonna.
Made all the agreements, but
Yeah.
they were really stuck on this Pepperdine sidewalk. I'm like, please let Pepperdine work on that with Caltrans, because I knew that Halen had to recuse, and I knew that Marianne Doug would never vote for us, ever, on anything. I mean, other than the Malibu Inn Hotel, Doug Stewart actually was the vote to make it go for our appeal. But with this whole safety plan, I said, there's no way in how they're gonna vote against, especially with all the attacks that come to MTC every week at every meeting and in the paper and all.
So from the outside, there's a lot of us versus them, right? There's this game in
Yes.
Malibu all the
Yes.
time, but
Yes.
sometimes there's things that need to be improved, right?
Yes.
And there's plans, there's agencies. Perfection doesn't exist. So for the MTC, like if you have to choose between perfection or something halfway cooked, but that is gonna help a lot, I feel like you always tried for perfection as much as you can. You kind of handle that bar, and then it's always like this agony, and it goes through. But could we
After that-
save some of the agony?
After that appeal, I think everyone agrees we should have withdrawn the appeal and just made our agreement.
And that thought was why? Because in the end, it didn't pan out the way you thought it was going to pan out, and then staff and others ended up spending an inordinate amount of
Right.
time litigating it.
It is it's sensitive. I apologize. It actually probably turned out worse, right? Because had
did
you
withdraw.
withdrawn it, there was a compromise you guys had worked
Right.
hard on.
I'm pretty
And Bill,
sure-
by the way, when you walked up to that podium and you said we're doing this because we didn't have a line item veto.
Yeah.
This is we're trying to help. I fully supported that, and I do fully support you, right? But you guys were walking into the Lions Den that night, and
That
pinatas.
wasn't even supposed to present. I found out the night before. I was voted, and I'm like, well, I don't want to do this, but I was forced.
Sometimes things
You have
happen.
responsibility.
Events happen that are so
Yeah.
large that they unite an entire community.
Yes.
And the death of the Pepperdine girls was one of those events. So, sidebar, you would think that the Palisades fire would also have been one of those events
Right.
that we somehow aren't fully united. But
Yeah.
this was unwinnable in a way. But I support your efforts to improve it.
Well,
Caltrans
We-
will likely do what we.
we won with Caltrans,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got called a killer for my efforts
Yeah.
publicly in the newspaper record for this city. I don't appreciate. I was called that by several people in that meeting. I don't appreciate it. My wife is furious. I don't blame. So, in retrospect, okay, for what? Questioning the number of lights.
Yeah.
By the way, they started, I think it was at 48, and we negotiated down to 22, then it was 27, and then to say, the only killing being done that night were the daggers coming from the eyes of Stewart and Riggins, right at us. I was sitting next to Joe.
I think it was
I've rarely seen that much hatred in people's eyes directed at me, but
Well,
I got it.
You even got a little bit from Bruce too at the end, which I don't think you appreciated.
Not hatred, not for Bruce.
He just said, don't appeal.
Yeah,
We
which
were
is-
never planning on.
There was
another
this,
appeal.
the stuff with the
If
coastal
this would've-
commission.
if
They
this-
made that up. They said, "Oh, we're going to appeal to the coastal commission." There's been no discussion of it. I'll breach privilege to that extent. They made it up out of
It
whole
was the
cloth.
only way to start negotiating with.
So
But
they
in-
lie,
in
okay?
your mind, that hatred was misplaced and unwarranted.
Yeah.
If you could rewind a couple of months back, is there anything that at the MTC or you guys collectively would have done differently?
We wouldn't have filed that appeal, or we would have filed the appeal, but we would have withdrawn it as soon.
Joe, you wouldn't have done it. Bill, do you agree?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's over. I mean, you're
What about the other 11 board
You-
members?
You've left
No,
on.
no, the
you-
reason
you
I
left
asked
on.
is
Okay,
because-
here's the problem. I mean, I tried a lot of cases back in the day, a long time ago. Your hypothetical's incomplete, and that you may have heard that. If you've ever testified, you know what I'm talking about. If you testify as an expert, you may have, but I don't know. Had we known months before that we could get some cooperation from Caltrans on some stuff that was not very good, maybe they would have fixed it then, and we wouldn't have gotten into it. And with the thing on the lawn, to some extent, we'd stuck our necks out, and
And it
I
came so fast.
personally, and all of a sudden, okay, we got all this agreement, and the only thing left, I told Silverstein, he asked, the only things left is the
Pepperdine side.
lawn. And I go, yeah, and probably if we'd withdrawn it then, Pepperdine would have been deprived of its opportunity to speak. Now, I am not a fan of Pepperdine, however, yanking the rug out of somebody like that, to me, is just bad
I
sportsmanship,
think
as it were.
PCH is gonna be changed in the next 15 years anyway. It's gonna be, I do believe in the future that it will be one lane on each side and,
Wow.
and
Sidewalks
sidewalks,
on both sides.
bike lanes.
Can I offer a suggestion of
medians.
what you might have done differently? You probably will be like, shut up, Danny, who told me? But
Nobody asked.
okay. Because you insist on this veil of secrecy, people don't know what you're trying for. And had you maybe written an op-ed in the Malibu Times laying out your case ahead of time, that room might have been very different.
The only
on
thing,
that.
there was only 2 weeks. There was very little time.
It's,
And the Bruce saying, don't appeal this to coastal, is because he did not know. That was your right. And in the past,
That's
this,
because the
Things
article in the
happen.
Malibu Times.
the
made
Malibu
that up.
Times said we had voted to appeal to the Coastal Commission.
That would never happen.
Hogwash
Never happen.
or bovine excrement.
that was just more.
Okay?
It's just,
It
was-
didn't happen.
There's a reason that that appeal happened when it did, because it was right before Thanksgiving. Everything is calculated in this town, just like the antenna pool, which we have appealed, is happening December 17th, and we had to have everything in.
Expound on that a little bit more. You said something quite interesting. Everything is calculated in this town.
Yes.
Say a little bit.
So
To
Luis's
make it
paranoia
difficult.
is
Yes,
founded on
yes,
reality.
Yes, it
This
is.
is our,
Good to know.
yeah.
They're making it more
Conspiracy
difficult. They
theories.
are making it more difficult for us to put on a successful appeal. We had plenty of time for the Malibu Inn Motel. That's why it was successful. These ones are right back to back before Christmas, in between Thanksgiving. They're rushing it.
Like last year, they voted on the community development unification,
Right.
the hearing right before Thanksgiving. It was
Right.
just three of us there, Norm Heine, you and me.
Yeah.
Well, it's like saying on a Friday that the ReBUild ambassador will be
Exactly.
leaving on a Monday, right?
Or saying
on a
This
Friday
happens all
that
the
we're
time.
restricting all TDSF
I remember
for the
that one.
beach.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So
let's
this
talk about that.
This
forthcoming
is happening.
Monday, does MTC have a stance on item 7A?
Well, let's,
TDSF?
for the audience, let's frame that discussion because that's topical as well. What got, I would say, snuck in the agenda last council meeting, item 7A or 7C, was there would be a discussion or exploration of limiting TDSF or beachfront homes. The community got wind of that, up in arms. Why now? I personally have a bunch of questions. But to Darren's question, what's MTC's view on it?
And even more background though, like for the land side, we have limits on the TDSF based on the size of your lot. The beachfront lots, they don't have any limitations on the square footage on TDSF is how we call it because they have many other
100 other limitations.
like they have from the
Physical.
MMC, they have string lines and set lines, and from the LIT they have view corridors, which is at 20% of your lot,
Right.
right? So
Is it
now
25?
20%.
Oh, 20.
And this has been the case since 1991, these rules.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there's been ordinances.
2002, I think, is when the LIP went in.
There was a moratorium, but 1991 is when cityhood. So
I mean, they don't have backyards, right? The TDSF is all they have where they can walk around.
Well,
there's
And have a
too.
beach, of course.
we should,
Yeah,
we
so-
should let our guests talk.
There's setback limits, right? They're
You have 10% of the lot.
Well, we're boxed in by the
There's no
ocean,
load
the
width.
highway, floodplain elevation underneath, setbacks, everything was built out pretty much pre-cityhood.
Right.
So I think that's one of the reasons that TDSF was
It
never
really shouldn't be
implemented.
called 7A, it should be called the Ellison.
The
Or
Oracle
Ellison
ordinance
item.
is what I, the
Yeah.
Oracleization. But anyway, back to the MTC, what was
the
your
question?
view on this?
What's your view?
Do you want to
Have you guys studied
TDSF
this?
on the beach?
I don't know. And MTC has not discussed it,
We
so
have.
there isn't a position to take. Is the board going to talk about it sometime? Presumably, but I don't know.
Well,
If you
Zori's
were-
is going
if
to
you-
talk
if
about
you-
it, maybe.
If you were to take one, maybe not an NTC view, but your personal views on it, would you be supportive of introducing a TDSF limit on beachfront homes?
I've never thought of it.
I
I'm so far,
You
I
don't have
am
a
so
full
far
opinion.
from the beachfront. It's not a matter of personal, it's 2 blocks and 25 million, okay? I'm not gonna get there. It ain't gonna happen in my lifetime. Not for me.
So don't see it, don't
I don't, so I don't give it much thought.
But it defines
And I have
Malibu.
not given it much
But don't
thought.
you think it defines Malibu truly? Like we have a PCH, the whole 21 miles, and then it's like limited by housing that's
Yeah.
built. All.
So
Would
it's
you
very
want
important.
someone to buy 4 lots and build up 3.5 of the lot?
Only if it's 120 feet high. I don't know. I mean, you're asking me hypotheticals I haven't even
So
pondered.
they're
And I'm in a place where this is public and, asking me to speculate on what I might do in the future on something I really haven't thought much about is, I'll tell you, I don't know. And if you can't accept, by the way, that's an unimpeachable answer. I don't know what I don't remember. You can't do anything with a witness who says that. I know that.
But also being
By the way, if you're married, that's a good response to your wife.
Seems wisdom.
I don't remember. I don't remember, dear.
All right, Joe, what's your view on this?
I whenever an election comes out, that question always comes to one of the candidates, like, there's a limit on TDSF on landslide, should there be one on the beach? And they always say, yes, there should be one, but it never happens. And I don't think that they should do the same limits as the land side. I just think that it should be, the house should be no bigger than whatever, 12,000 square.
Let me run for 30 seconds on this. I think that's fine. And what's happened briefly is that just since this was announced that the council wants to study it, it's had an effect immediately, even if the studying process takes a year. Right now, buyers are now scared off
Right.
about new regulations, which is hurting people that need to sell their lots who can't afford to rebuild. It's also
this is
affecting
the wrong
people's
time.
concrete plans to rebuild. But so I think the item should be pulled completely, but there is a half measure, which would be to change the language. The city council would like to study putting a cap
Yeah.
of 11,000 square feet, which is the land side cap of development, or 10,000 square feet, but I think to be equitable, it should be the same.
72.
I don't think there would be a lot of residents complain about that. I don't even think there would be development complaint. How big are these Ellison houses?
Well, I mean, I'll take the other side of that.
Not that big.
I would take the other side of that, not from a personal opinion standpoint, but just for the sake of an argument. Is that even appropriate for the time that we are in?
No.
You know, now that we are looking to welcome all comers and get our city back on track, you know, from a tax revenue standpoint, from getting kids back in school standpoint, from not having graffiti on PCH standpoint, is it even appropriate to have that conversation? If somebody wants to combine, you know, 4 lots and build something, can we let a couple of those slip? First of all, that's a total hypothetical because none of that has actually happened.
Yeah.
But second of all, even if that were to be the case, is this the time to litigate that issue?
Well, I would ask also, you said MTC's goal is to keep Malibu Malibu. So I'm younger than almost everyone here.
Me?
And to me, Malibu is defined in part by Billionaire's Beach, right? Every time I came up here as a kid, there's always been this block of gorgeous architectural feats on the south side of PCH. That's not quite attainable if TDSF limits are imposed south of PCH, because the people who are going to spend the money to achieve that greatness, they need to get their money back at some point, and they pencil out, well, we need a bigger property to do that. And so that glory of PCH, Richard Meyer houses, Ellison's works of art across the street by other architects, that would never happen again if this is imposed.
And this
then
But
we
even
would
if
lose
they
part of
don't
Malibu.
put kids into our schools, they still pay for our schools, so it can be very much appreciated.
these houses, if somebody wanted to do this, those houses will be shorter. They will have bigger setbacks. They will have view quarters, and they might have public access easements that have to be extracted from the billion of
I'm
them.
huge fans of
Now-
that.
Oh, that's interesting.
What?
The MTC, you guys don't like easements to the beach.
Public access.
What? That's quite an accusation.
Let me.
No, I know.
Listen,
They
hypothetical.
no,
Let
they
me
want to
just
keep
say-
Malibu private. They don't want outsiders.
Let me finish the thought.
Let's let Danny finish and then we'll come to Luis.
So I don't necessarily have a problem with some of those. I think are landmarks, kind of to Darren's point. However, I think I do have a problem hypothetically if somebody bought up a mile. That's too much. A quarter of a mile of beachfront lots and put a 40,000 square foot house on it. Now that would change the character of Malibu. So if you put a maximum developmental cap on it of an absolute number, 10,000, 11,000, problem solved.
But that doesn't work because it's a graph, so it has to be proportionate to the size of.
What's
the
Well,
lot.
that's what the rules are for the land side.
So you want to change
You
the
could come up
whole
with a
thing.
totally different
Is it
scheme if you
11,000
want
the
to.
max on the land
It's
side?
the max, but then
Okay,
it's
so
a max
let's
for
have-
5 acres.
let's
but
have
then
a
there's a
max,
different
max.
max for acre and a half. There's a different max for 2 acres. Like you have to watch the hearing from.
But 11,000 is the max.
11,172.
Well, yeah, I do recall being at a meeting one time before I got involved in what you where a couple with tears in their eyes were speaking to the council about the phenomenal hardship being imposed on the poor dears because they could only get 7,200 square feet on their acre lot for the 2 of them. You know, when I've gone across the country, if I hitchhike or biked or something in the country, I would literally go and ask the local gendarme and small, can I spend the night in your jail? And it was big enough. You know?
Bill,
Or church basements, you know?
I will always agree with so much of what you say and think, but here I have a difference of opinion. I don't think somebody on an acre lot with a 7,000 square foot house that you can't see from the road, that doesn't block anybody's views, that doesn't hurt the environment, is an issue. We might have our opinions about ostentatious wealth, but I don't think it is any sort of fundamental issue for the community.
They were upset about that limit. That was what
Maybe
they were,
they're-
that was what they were crying about. We had to have more.
I think that the right question is though, there's this word that I learned recently that Bruce mentioned a few times, the boogeyman. So let's define the boogeyman in this case. What are we afraid of? What are we trying to prevent?
Global warming, I don't know.
No, with this,
It's always global warming.
if you were to be in favor of this new
Exactly what
TDSF.
Danny was saying, 40,000 square feet house on the beach. I mean,
The
I don't think that-
Ellisonization of.
Yeah.
So that's a problem that we
Beyond
want to
Ellison.
prevent.
I mean, but here's the thing that I have an issue with, right? I mean, this morning we discussed this at the Malibu Business Roundtable. We have one permit issued on the beach, 330 homes lost, one permit issued. And we are talking about a hypothetical that is not even a reality. Not only is no one looking to build a 10,000 square foot home, nobody is even contemplating building a 40,000 square foot home. So why are we talking about it
Right.
now and distracting staff? I mean, staff has said that this is such a massive time sink that is taking away from the work that they ought to be doing to get these permits through. And that's the piece which is very confusing to me.
Is the response not yet?
I think I actually am listening to the whole view corridor opening. I mean, maybe it would be good to have, keep
The
it.
bigger the house, the bigger the
Yeah.
corridor, the
Yeah.
less amount of seawalls, less amount
Yeah.
of
I
septics,
think
less traffic.
There should be no change right now, for sure.
And then also my question to you, right, is like this right now, for how long though? Because traditionally getting a permit on the beach, it takes 5 years for the CDP. So right now means not in the next 5 years.
Okay, so this is
Right.
actually a really good point. Let's say there's a 40,000 square foot gleam in somebody's eye. It's going to take them 7 years to do it, 5 minimum, right? This could be discussed in 2 years from now. That house could be blocked from being built, and so many people would have been helped in the meantime by postponing.
But the buyers, the potential buyers, are gonna be like,
I'm not that worried about the person with the ability to build a 40,000 square foot house. By
Financial hardship is probably.
They can
don't
they
get
can
it.
parcel it out and sell them off.
It may still be at some level unfair,
the same
but
problem.
you know, it's a selective battle that we may be okay picking. I want to turn it back over to you guys. Do you think that there are misperceptions about the MTC, what they stand for? If yes, how does that make you feel, and what would you like to, tell everybody?
Well, I think everyone thinks we're anti-development, and we're not anti-development. We are pro-resident, pro-Malibu, and slow growth, not massive.
no growth.
Not no bros, no. And the only things we appeal are things that are discretionary, variances, or like an 80, 90-foot antenna pole tower in the Civic Center, or the wetlands, something majorly environmental, that there always some kind of a discretionary variance. If it's code compliant, we're not
or
going
houses that are big too further from the neighborhood character too, right?
we actually just voted on that because we've had several neighbors approach us and say, there was this Harvester Road project that had a potential stream, and was coming within 7 feet, a 22-foot wall within 7 feet of a neighbor whose house didn't burn down, and the neighbor on the other side did burn down, but she was forced to put her home 200 feet from the stream, and then this new guy comes in and he just has to put it 10 feet from the street, so it didn't make sense. And this is all environmentally sensitive habitat. I mean, it's all of these variances that this is when we get involved, when it's not code compliant. If it's just a complete clean sheets project, we're never going to get involved. I'm just like, yeah, let's.
So you're kind of Malibu's QC,
What's that?
quality control.
QA.
Quality control.
And we'll never go against a project that doesn't have opposition. I mean, if no one.
What is your response, Bill? Are there misperceptions you think?
Obviously, there are. We were accused of being killers in this thing at the last meeting, and unsympathetic. Says Michelle Shane probably doesn't know it. When he published, he wanted letters written to the parole boards. I've done it however many times he's asked. And then to read that crap and have it in the newspaper record with no indication that it was not the paper's position.
And it's
There's no
ironic
disclaimer.
Because,
And
and I
I-
brought,
What?
and I
No, no.
brought up the fact that on July 4th, when Nobu was having that permit issued by the city, we contacted Caltrans, MTC, and said, this permit should not happen because there would be parking buses on the road, and
it's not legal, and Caltrans revoked the permit, but they had the party anyway, and that the city and the sheriff and the fire department should have shut that party down, and if they had,
And I think they mentioned the hotel project. Well, if
it's enforcement. There's
if
no
we have, if we have staff or planning commission, there's an old story. Guy wants to know what 2 + 2 is, okay? So he says, well, I think I'll go to an engineer or an architect. Maybe an architect, maybe a developer. He says, and the developer gets out says, oh, gets a slide rule, looks at, okay, well, gets his Texas Instrument business analyst, looks at it, says, and he loads up a spreadsheet and goes, it's 4. Really? Okay. So then he goes to a CPA. Says, hey, what is 2 + 2? The CPA goes, except as provided in section 1375.6.7.8B of subsection 3, it's 4. Then he goes to a lawyer. Lawyer says, step into my office. Pulls the shades, sits back, lights a cigar, says, what do you want it to be? Our council, or not our council, our planning commission and our department said 2 + 2 = 2.
Right,
Well, and we're perceived as not being able to do arithmetic.
and it's.
That, I have a problem with
The
that.
developers.
My
don't
degree's in
like
math.
that. That's.
2 + 2 = well, I'm a lawyer. What do you want it to be? No, it was that kind of thing. We hate everybody who built stuff, and we're just against building. You want to rebuild says, the first time I got through down there and I had a medical pass, into the East End, says, I was crying. I was with my wife. I was also crying because I was on my way to a doctor for an unpleasant experience, and I knew I was going to be gone for 6.5 hours. But I go, my town is gone, and I've dodged fires for 45 years. To say we don't sympathize, I can't say empathize, because my house did not burn down. Until you experience the same thing, it's sympathy, not empathy.
And really, one of our goals.
And she's lost, her
That, that we will never have a fire like this affect our community again. We really need to work with the fire department, the
Yeah.
county, the state parks, with NPS, with the bloody chaparral.
So you feel that it's a duty, it's a civil duty that you guys are performing, because if you don't do it, nobody does it, and Malibu would go.
Is the MTC,
They don't seem to.
Is the MTC fighting for fire hardening of the community?
Sure.
Yes.
And then,
Prescriptive burns and
how much duty and how much Gira, how much,
Higher on that.
this is like bad question, I'm sorry, how much ego is there too? How much
In
self-importance? Yes.
You see yourselves as guardians of Malibu, like you're better than the planning commission.
No, not at all.
So I feel that there has to be
Just like
some
voices of
communication
Yeah.
to
But is
improve
there,
that.
I mean, to expound on what Luis was saying, maybe not so much ego, but does it sort of internally hurt to see you that the Malibu, the rural village that is a vision perhaps of the past is changing year over year? And there is, not much we can do about it.
I don't think it's changed, like Danny was saying. We used to have 12,000 and now we have 6,000 possibly. I mean, if we maintain.
We did a lot more concrete though.
Yeah.
I know it depends on where you put the lens, right? If you put the lens up in California, yeah, California is changing. Like LA grew so much, 20s, 30s, 40s, right? But Malibu is kept, it boomed in the 70s, and now it's more in
But
control.
I think Caltrans could make it more of a.
we also want more concrete in Malibu because we don't want wood anymore because it burns, right?
But more vertical concrete, no
I
horizontal.
don't think that's what he meant.
Can I offer another?
Malibu is unique. People, I hear an unfortunate expression. Oh, that is very unique. There is no such thing as very unique. Unique means one. I'm a mathematician. It's very important to prove solutions are unique sometimes. It is unique. There is nowhere on the coast of California, probably not Oregon, I've been up all a bit, and most of Washington, anything like this. Nothing is like it. Not Newport, not Laguna. I really loved Laguna. I bought a board from Hobie when Dana Point was from Hobie himself, and it was a little shack, and there were all these empty streets down there. I mean, it isn't that anymore. It's not even close. I used to go to Capo Beach. There isn't anywhere. The only thing that's remotely like it is probably Camp Pendleton, and I don't really feel like going there. It's nice to go to Trestles.
And the planning department, I mean, as good as Yolanda Bundy is, she can't control and look at everything.
So is there some fear that this might change
Well, it is,
if
because-
the NTC sort of backs off, if you?
You've seen that big, huge quarter-mile development between Coral Canyon and Jer's house? That's,
The story pole development.
and that is on a landslide area. And I have done more landslide studies on my rebuild than they have done on that landslide area. And they don't have to get a variance.
then.
Well, they're following, yeah, they're following the process.
Well, it's actually.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yeah,
Sure.
You're probably like, shut up, Danny, no one's asking you. But you say that you're not anti-development. I would love to see the MTC, you're a lawyer, or were, like the idea of
I'm a recovering lawyer. Okay.
amicus brief. I'd like to see the MTC write letters of support sometime for an applicant at the
Well, we
planning
did
commission.
write a letter of
just
support for
did.
the La Salsa Motel.
And then they pulled the
And
plug
then
out
they-
from under
and
it.
then
They
they-
changed it.
They were like, oh no, they're supporting this, we should change it.
I know, they
Don't give them a win.
Because
Because they did make that restaurant a manager's office, and then they just decided, oh, they don't need a manager on site, so I'm
I
like,
have another question about the organization. Like, what is the future of it? Well, in other words, who's the youngest member? How old is the youngest member?
we me? No, no.
Might be, I don't know. There, okay. In your spare time, why don't you go read a book, and I don't know what edition it's on. It's called Bowling Alone.
Okay.
It was written by a Harvard sociologist, and it is about the deterioration is not the right word, the decline in civic light. And there's a lot of demonstrable stuff. People don't join service clubs. I don't remember the Optimist Club. I was the youngest guy when I joined. I'm afraid I might still be. I'm not, but you get the idea. It says Kiwanis clubs, I think, is gone. They're all, people don't write as many letters to the editor as they used to. They don't go to church as much, church outside of attending as much as they used to. They don't participate in civic activities as much as they used to. So my car clubs are declining. Okay? I mean, well, for one thing, old people like the cars they grew up with.
But if people want to support
we got the same
Malibu
problem.
families rebuilding from fires, for fixing the planning department so that small projects and rebuilds go fast and huge, enormous projects go slow. That's it. If that's what,
So one last,
that's what it should be.
one last question. Somebody mentioned that in the last 10 years, NTC has had 3,300 FOIA requests. Is that,
For you, what is that, public records report?
yeah, Freedom of Information Act?
No.
It doesn't.
It's just one of those misperceptions.
I haven't been on the board that long, but it doesn't sound right.
No.
I mean,
MTC hardly ever.
They're a nuisance
puts
to
in
write.
Their own.
So does MTC have some sort of newsletter that you publish? And if so, is it published to the general public or only to your members?
No, it's to the general public.
I'm just asking if we're talking about PR for MTC.
What is the difference between MTC, maybe it's a stupid question, and the slow Coalition for Slow Growth?
Oh, they're completely separate.
They're the worst.
Who's
They're
Cliff
separate
Newer
entities.
or?
They're separate entities. I think there's some overlap in membership. Pat, for example.
Are they bigger or smaller?
I don't know.
I don't know, I'm not.
Older or younger?
So,
I don't know.
So are you guys?
You the kind of guy who goes to a restaurant and asks what the cow's name is before you order a steak? Sure.
I know.
Are you guys generally reactive and looking at what happens in future council meeting, whether what's on the agenda, what needs to happen, or are you also pushing for things and are proactive for certain things? Do you guys have visions for certain things and trying to?
Okay, let me give you one example that just happened. It says
Yeah.
oh God, it's a whole string of letters. The Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District Facilities District Advisory Committee for Malibu High School, in its infinite wisdom, decided that a 40-meter pool was the correct length for the
They wanted
pool.
to change the standards.
Yes, of course, and that,
Little
too,
limits.
I made all the arguments. Okay, well, let's go to baseball, we'll have 72-foot base paths. and that sort of thing.
An
And
80-meter.
they all,
You
unanimous.
spoke on that.
The Malibu Township Council, I mean, and Halen actually did a little bit of work on it, and I did a lot of it. That decision was rendered by these people without a single swimmer in the room, except for the water polo coaches. If you know the sport, you got to swim to play water polo.
So
But
you did
ain't
not
a
push,
swimmer.
your point is you didn't push for no pool.
We
You
pushed for a bigger pool, and Riggins testified against it.
Yes.
That would have been more concrete, just so you're aware.
Yeah, I know, there's gonna be gunite and
A
everything.
little bit more concrete, a
But
little bit more
it's,
steel.
but it was so stupid, and they changed their minds. We did. We were, yeah, we were gonna make it bigger. I mean, some of the ancillary stuff will have to be smaller to get it in there. We did that, and they changed their mind in a month. Bodies like that never change their minds.
Well, I hope the future champions thank you for your efforts on the pool.
Oh my gosh, I just want them to have a chance.
And then we were gonna have this $90 million performing arts center as well. This is what our big
No
school is
comments.
on. So, but we have a lot of talent in Malibu. We
Yeah.
have a lot of affluence and we have a lot of talents, and if you build it, they will come.
Well, listen, it was fantastic having the two of
Thank
you
you.
and just understanding your perspective. That's what this
Thank you
is
for the
about.
platform. So nice
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. Absolutely.
You're welcome.
for your
Thank you very much.
positivity.
Thanks for-
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Reps,
hosting.
100 permits.
That's my favorite.